Santa Clarita and everyone else streaming around the world. You're listening to the Inspirational Parent radio show. I'm your host, Alex Urbina, a teen and parent expert, family life coach, and author of my new conscious parenting book, The Inspirational Parent. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about how to see everything as a learning moment. My co-host, Jasmine Urbina, is on a well-deserved vacation, so we wish her well and hope that she makes it back soon, and we'll see her back in the studio next Friday. But today, joining me in studio, I have a very special guest. She's an author, a speaker, a coach, and I love her tagline. It's called Creating a Massive Movement, Empowering Moms and Empowering Children. Mary Tan, thanks for joining me in the studio today.
Thanks so much for having me, Alex. It's a pleasure.
I appreciate that. So let's talk a little bit about how to see everything as a learning moment. I took a little time and kind of reflected on a few key things that I wanted to talk about, and then maybe you can jump in and contribute and add some insight. The first thing that I thought about was that the key for me is that I have to be willing to see all things as a learning moment and be willing to be a student again. Because if I operate from the know-it-allism that can plague us all, then we stop seeing all things as learning opportunities or moments to teach us something about ourselves, or still the gap that we still need to continue to grow.
Absolutely. I feel like no matter, we're talking specifically about parenting kids. For me, I'm targeting 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, but it does not matter if you're 2, 15, or 60. We have to see ourselves as eternal students of life. And the moment that we stop learning, they say you're dying, right? When you stop learning, you stop growing, you start dying. And you lose the magic and the joy of being alive when you stop noticing the little things, you know? It's like, that's why I always suggest go into nature. When you find yourself totally out of alignment and not finding joy in your life, go into nature. Nature has that intelligence that's already within all of us, also programmed within it, but it doesn't ever question, am I good enough? Where do I fit in? What am I supposed to do next? It just knows.
Yeah.
It just does it. And so if we need that pick-me-up, go take a hike.
Yeah, sometimes in the training rooms when I work with teenagers, a lot of times their frustrations that they voice is that they know their mom and dad still needs more work to get done. However, they act as though they know it all. And for me personally, I've been on this journey of giving myself permission to not let my ego think that it knows everything. Right. And so I've trained myself to be vulnerable around my kids and let them know that I don't know everything. Oh, yeah. And that I'm on a journey just as they are to continue to learn. And I also gave them permission to teach me too, yes, which was a very humbling experience.
Totally.
And by me giving them that permission, I'm now consciously aware that they can teach me things about myself, yes, as well as what they need from me to help them grow and nurture their existence.
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's exactly the way I parent my kids. I have a 2- and a 5-year-old. They're both girls. And not surprisingly, because everything I do has always been about empowering women, so of course the universe gave me 2 little goddesses. It's amazing. And that's the way I treat them. You know, I've always treated them like they understand everything, because they are so wise. Just because they may not have the words to communicate fully, it doesn't mean they don't understand everything 100%. And I think the moments where, like, you first come into this world and before you leave this world is where you're most in tune with the greater unknown. And so I always treat them with that, that I'm aware of their wisdom and that I'm here to learn from them just as much as I'm here as their coach to shorten their learning curve of how to be in this world. But if I'm out of alignment and I'm not showing up the way that I want to show up as an empowered mom, I'll own it immediately, as soon as I can. And
they'll let you know too. By the way.
What's that?
Your kids will let you know when you're out of tune.
Oh, they do, and that's wonderful. That's the other thing, is that, like, how awesome is it to have feedback constantly from your... So I see them as my team members in my team. We're Team Tan. That's our last name, Team Tan. And everybody is a leader within our household. You are a leader of yourself. I don't care if you're 2 years old or 5 years old or 60 years old, right? And that's the whole point, is that everybody needs to see themselves as a leader. And I plant those seeds early. Because if we know that the subconscious mind, whatever seeds you plant in there are stories that operate like a computer's operating system for adults. Most people are walking around with these stories that need healing. Mm-hmm. So if we can plant the seeds of empowerment early on, I can't wait to see what happens when they grow up.
Yeah, and when you got to be careful, because when you start to tell your kids they're a leader and remind them they're a leader, you actually have to create the space for leaders to discover themselves and to be that leader, which means that they might have to call you on some things and they're going to challenge you. And so you really have to be willing to go through that growth process if you're going to,
as a parent,
if you're going to play that game called I want to build leaders, not followers, your game's going to have to be elevated.
You're talking about the parent needs to be able to check their own ego and accept that feedback.
Absolutely. I mean,
totally.
you can't sit there and say, I want to develop leaders, yet I don't want to be called or challenged on my own parenting.
Totally.
You have to, if you're going to commit, you got to commit to it, 100%, and be willing to create that space for your kids to find their own voice, to use their own voice, and even challenge you. And you have to figure out how to take that process and have it nurture both of our growing, their growing as well as our growing.
Absolutely. I think that's an excellent point, because if you are from an egotistical point, let's say, saying, I want leaders because I want them to, I don't know, that's your idea of success, but then we're not developing ourselves as the adults and having that space that's safe for them to really walk the walk that we're asking them to do, then we're sabotaging them, and it's very confusing. And so,
well, it's contradicting.
It's contradicting. And the work really does begin with the adult. If we can embody all the things that we want our child to have and be and show up in the world, then we're in alignment, we're authentic, we're within our integrity of saying, hey, don't do that just because I'm older and I'm saying do that and listen to me. I'm saying I'm going to model that to you. I'm going to show you like the mental tools of how to think the right thoughts and, stay in integrity with your word, Really, if you have to, as a parent, truly walk your talk and have the practice and embody it, then you can really have the power to lead the young ones in your family.
Absolutely. You're actually modeling the behaviors that which you're intending to empower them to embrace and own as their own. Let's talk a little bit more about how to see all things as a learning opportunity. When I think about the how-tos and really getting down to the crux of how do I do something, I think of the self-awareness. Like, you really have to decide that you're going to embark on this journey called self-awareness, where I'm really going to have to make a commitment to look at myself, to reflect, to from moment to moment ask myself, okay, Alex, why did you choose that? Where were you choosing from? What was your intention when you made that choice? Like, it's really a process of looking at myself and discovering if every choice I made was the most effective choice. I don't like to use the word right, wrong, good, or bad, because that's judgment. But I like to use the word effective or ineffective. Was the choice you made effective, causing the result that you're looking for, or was it ineffective and I fell short? So that way we can look at what's missing in my choices or my thought process. So self-reflection, I think, is the very first step for you to be able to see all things as a possibility of your teacher.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that is, if you weren't taught by your adult, or you haven't had the opportunity for someone to show you the importance of self-awareness, and you're going to try it now that you've heard this radio show, give yourself a little self-love and like appreciation and patience, because it's not, anytime you learn something new, like driving a car, it's not going to be like, oh my gosh, you get in the car for the first time and you just like take off driving down the 101, right? So like anything new, just like lifting weights, you got to do it the right way or you're going to hurt your body. So but do it, because it is the number one most important step to living a happy life. If you're not aware of where you're coming from, what your thoughts are doing, because your thoughts lead to your experience of life, because your thoughts literally become things, like they say, there's a very famous quote. And so the thoughts lead to your feelings and your emotions, and then your actions, and hence your experience, your results. And so as a parent, leading the younger ones in your clan, you've got to walk your talk once again. You know, you've got to be aware of like, what am I thinking that's causing me to feel this way, which is, let's say in parenting, I'm so frustrated. It's like playing the same old record, or it's triggering the way that your parent treated you. And then you're just reactionary and just like showing up and doing what was always done.
Yep.
I'm thinking, well, that's just the way it's always been, so that's the way it's always going to be. And that's like the biggest sabotage to your own happiness. The moment you can be responsible, which is the ability to respond, right? And be aware of how you are truly showing up and how it's affecting your life and how you're the cause of it. Oh my God, all of a sudden you are super powerful, because if you can accept all the good with all the bad, then you can say, all right, I don't like that. What am I going to do next?
Now, there's something I want to point out in that self-awareness and looking and reflecting on yourself to find out what it is that you're supposed to be learning, or what you could be learning from the scenario or the result that you're standing in front of. I also want to point out the ego and how the ego can get in the way and not want you to learn whatever lesson is there for you to learn.
Sure.
Because its job, right, the ego is to protect you.
Yes.
And it doesn't want you to be wrong. Its job is to make you right all the time. And so
Yes.
sometimes we have to struggle with grabbing that ego and saying, hey, take a time out, because me learning this lesson is valuable for me, for my own growth, as well as my growth as a parent, to keep leading my kids. And so there's that struggle with ego to try to figure out what's the learning lesson in this. And the reason why I know that ego gets in the way a lot, not only for my own ego getting in the way of my own journey, but as a coach, when I coach parents, I'll always ask them, what did you learn in this scenario? And every time I ask that question, 90% of the parents or my clients, when I ask them that, they have a hard time trying to find the learning lesson
For themselves.
for themselves.
Bravo.
And then when and so my kids, it's funny, because if they were on the radio here today, they would always tell you the one thing my dad always asks me every time I come to them with some kind of a breakdown. He'll ask me, what are you learning, or what did you learn? It's a very powerful question that you as a human being have to start living from.
Yes.
Your come from has to be going, okay, this is here now in front of me.
Absolutely.
In this, whether it's a tragedy or whether it's a shortcoming or a failure or a fault or whatever it is that you're standing in front of, you got to ask yourself, what am I supposed to be learning here? What's the
Yes.
takeaway?
Totally.
And if you can live in that question,
Yes.
your growth is going to be extraordinary.
Absolutely agree with you. And it's so funny because I personally have my own practice that I thought I made up, but
Actually, none of us made it up.
Right, you're right.
It's all laws from the universe and
Absolutely.
spirit that's guiding us. It's just that we're all different teachers that are learning how to say it in different ways.
Totally.
Because we could both be saying the same thing.
We
It's just
are,
you say it
yes.
the way you say it, and certain people can hear you.
Yes.
And I say it the way I say it, and certain people can hear me.
Yeah.
But some that can't hear you can't hear me, and vice versa. That's why I love this work.
Yes, me too.
Right, yeah.
But what you were saying there made me think about, the top 3 questions I always ask myself, and I give my clients as well. And it's very transformational because it puts you in the power seat of like, I've got to own it all, right? And when a recurring theme keeps happening, right, it's because you're not looking at what needs to be looked at. An old
Within
story.
yourself.
Always
Right,
within yourself,
yeah.
always. Whatever is external is just a mirror reflecting back to you something hidden in the shadows. And the shadows isn't a scary place. It's just a place that, you haven't shown the light on it yet.
That's right.
So there's no
it's
clarity.
It's tucked away.
Oh, yeah.
That you quite possibly could be avoiding or pretending not to know that it's there. But it's our greatest breakthrough if we're willing to have the courage to look at it and go, all right, the learning lesson is that I'm stubborn.
Yeah.
And every time that I go to being right and being positioned and rigid and in my stubbornness, the price I always pay is that my kids don't turn to me and open up or whatever the breakthrough is. But there are things there that are definitely hiding in the shadow, like you said. But the question is am I willing to look at it and find the learning lesson?
Totally. And, I want to encourage our listeners to be courageous enough to face whatever's in the shadows, because usually you think it's this humongous monster, but when you actually look at it and shine the light on it, it's like that puny. It's like, and it's smiling at you because it's like, haha, you haven't looked at me for like 40 years.
Yeah.
Or 20 years,
Or
whatever.
you keep looking right past me or right through me or right over me.
Yeah.
But I'm the thing that you really need to address
Yes.
and have the courage to own it, embrace it, such that you learn from it, and then I can go away and then you can advance to another level.
Absolutely. And it's like you get to the point when you walk, this path so much, it's like I said, like lifting weights. After a while, that muscle gets strong enough. And then it becomes your lifestyle. And then it becomes like second nature. It's like breathing. This is the only way you would choose to be, is to be responsible and aware of who you are showing up as and what you choose to be doing. And it becomes easier and easier. And even when you catch yourself in the midst of a challenge, no matter if you're alive in a body, you're going to have challenges because you're going to constantly want to reach for more. And that's not from a place of like scarcity and needing more material things. I'm just saying you just want to like give back more. You just want to do more, right? As long as you're in a body, there's going to be challenges, and that's okay. But you'll come to a point that you catch yourself in a challenge, and there's a part of you, even though it's really challenging, there's a part of you that can appreciate it and be like, I know this is really challenging, but I also know that like when I get to the other side, it's going to be awesome, and I'm going to get to the next level. And that's what pulls you forward, is trusting that the process of allowing yourself to be responsible and aware and work through it and face it will eventually get you through to the other side.
Yeah, all the challenges that seem to be daunting for you are there because they're designed at your current place that you're at in your journey is currently outside of your comfort zone. So all challenges are meant to be uncomfortable.
Right.
They're meant to be daunting. They're meant to be somewhat scary for you to figure out how to find the courage to face them. That's the breakthrough that's waiting for you on the other side. And those of us who have practiced being courageous enough to face those challenges and really, willing to grab our face and look at the thing that's right there, been staring at us, like you said, for some of us 40 years, to have that awakening and have that breakthrough. If you continually look past it, you're going to stay stuck in the same level that you've always been at. But here's the scary part is when you're stuck at that level, there's a part of you that wants more.
Yes.
You want better. You want more effective. You want beautiful relationships. You want to experience joy. You look at other people and go, how is she so free like that?
Right.
How does she just get up in the morning and like nothing phases her? So you're watching other people that are living beautiful, extraordinary living and lives, and there's a part of you that is staring at you saying, hey, come address me and have the courage to take this on so you can have a breakthrough, so you can get yourself onto that journey.
Totally.
That's what's waiting for you if you're willing to take that on.
Totally. And if it's something that, again, your adults didn't show you, or you haven't had the opportunity to be taught those steps of how to get there, it seems impossible. It seems like, they have all the luck. Like God gave her all the luck or him all the luck and forgot about me. And it's absolutely not that at all. I promise.
That's not true.
It's
that's a belief that probably our ego creates, right?
Yes.
Because the work is going to take work.
Yes.
It's going to be challenging. But I got to tell you, sitting here right now, I didn't get that luck. I didn't have parents that taught anything like this to me. My journey was, I stumbled upon something that really was staring at me in the face. And once I was courageous enough to look at that first glance, I couldn't avoid it no more. There was a part of me deep down inside that said, Alex, if you keep avoiding this one thing and the multiple things that are right there waiting for you to have a breakthrough, you're going to suffer the rest of your life. And more importantly, your kids are going to suffer. And you're going to struggle in life if you don't take this on and take it on as a challenge. And I don't know how I knew that intuitively.
Yeah.
I think it was because I was willing to look at that first glance. The first glance is always the most challenging.
Right.
Because and a lot of people will avoid it. A lot of people will call sometimes wanting coaching. And once we get down to the nitty-gritty of it, right?
Yeah.
We get to the nitty-gritty of it, like, all right, I'm so excited for you. Today, you're going to have to look at this. And all of a sudden, the phone call, they won't return phone calls because that fear comes up.
It's too scary.
It's too scary for some people.
So back to the ego, right? So the ego is meant to keep you alive. And it's like, I knew, like, if you grow too fast, change is scary for the ego. Even if it's something good, like change to become better, it's still scary because it's outside the comfort zone, like you said, and it will drag you down to where you've always been.
Yeah.
And that's where the courage, the choice, like I choose to be courageous enough. I'm open to being courageous. You know, I allow myself to be courageous. Those are words that you can say to yourself to affirm and reprogram yourself to be like, you know what, I'm going to keep that pathway open so that I have more possibilities that can come into my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then what I'd love to ask, the listener that's listening right now, since we're talking about the topic of how to see everything as a learning moment, as we go into this break, I want you to think about what's the learning moment you just had listening to the show for the last 20 minutes, or even if you just tuned in 5 minutes ago. What's the golden nugget can I take away from this? What's the thing that, as I'm hearing them talk, they're hitting certain chords or they're striking certain nerves within me that's resonating, that's something that I'm not looking at myself or haven't been looking at myself or been avoiding for such a long time, that maybe if I finally started to look there, I can finally see something that I can learn from to help me get to another higher level of consciousness.
Absolutely. That's the way to
So
go.
take that with you while we go on a 3-minute break, and we'll see you soon. Stay tuned for more of the Inspirational Parent Radio Show right here on your hometown station, KHTS.
Daily Imprints is the premier one-stop shop for custom embroidery, screen printing, and promotional products in the Santa Clarita Valley. Owners Joe and Dana have provided KHTS with quality embroidered company shirts for over 3 years. If it's new business cards or promotional products you need to enhance your image, Daily Imprints is the choice for you. Located on Lyons Avenue, stop by or call today, 661-678-0508.
Don and Gino here. So we know you want to have fun learning about real estate and finance. You're going to want to tune in this Saturday, 9 a.m. to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show right here on your hometown station. Hot topics, as always, guiding you to personal and financial wellness. And that's right, you don't want to miss it. So again, this Saturday, 9 a.m., and then we replay it online Sunday, 9 a.m., Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. right here on the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. Join us.
All-Star Sports Grills is the best place in town to catch a Dodger game on one of their 17 screens and choose a cold one from 23 different tap beers. All-Star Sports Grills prides itself on their fresh, made-to-order menu, including half-pound Angus burgers. Enjoy an all-star comedy show the fourth Wednesday of the month. All-Star Sports has a pet-friendly and smoking patio. All-Star Sports Grills on Bouquet Canyon, north of Plum Canyon.
And welcome back to the Inspirational Parent. I'm your host, Alex Urbina. Jasmine Urbina is not here today. She's on vacation. She'll be back next Friday. But joining me in studio is a very special lady. Her name is Mary Tan. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks,
We'll
Alex.
talk a lot about what you're up to and all the amazing things that you have to offer towards the end of the show. But today we were talking about how to see everything as a learning moment. Mm-hmm. And I thought we had some pretty incredible insight and some great little golden nuggets for people to grab onto to start living their life, living in the question. And the reason why I say that is because for me, one of the most powerful tools that I've taught myself is how to be in the question always. And the question is what is in front of me right now that I'm supposed to be learning about myself?
Absolutely.
And when it comes to every scenario or life situation, instead of being reactive to it, instead of resisting it or not wanting it or hating it or being annoyed by something, I'm always asking myself, okay, Alex, why is this here? And what's the learning lesson from it? What am I supposed to be learning so that I can learn from it so it stops showing up in my life?
Exactly.
Because I've noticed that if I keep avoiding whatever it is
Yes.
I'm supposed to be learning,
Yes.
the universe keeps sending it back to me
Absolutely.
over and over again. So the trick in the enlightenment of yourself and to get to the next level of consciousness is to stop avoiding those things that you need to learn interpersonally in those situations so they stop coming to you.
Yeah, and that should be the incentive, right? Like at first it comes out like a little pebble at your ankles,
Yeah.
right? And then it's like, what is it? Like a rock
They
at
hit
your
you in the knee, right?
And then it's eventually it'll be a boulder.
That's right.
And it's just going to knock you out.
Yeah.
And then you're going to throw your arms up in the air and be like, why me? But I don't want that to be you guys, the listener. I want you guys to be aware that like don't let it become a boulder. Notice it. Okay, it's understandable not to notice it when it's a pebble at your toes. But when it's like the second time or the third time where it's like the repetitive story, pay attention. The universe is always talking to you, giving you signs, letting you know, like, hey, this is a part of you in your shadow side that you haven't paid attention to. No good, bad, right, or wrong. It's just like, hey, you're not aware. Let's make you aware so that you can go to the next level.
Yeah, one of the stories that I share in my book, I'm not sure which chapter it is. I think it's the first couple chapters. I talk about when my youngest daughter would constantly lie to me. And she was probably about maybe 5 or 6, and she just kept lying every time I would ask her questions about maybe something that I saw, like maybe some writing on the wall, and I'd pull all my kids and I'd stand them up and I would say, okay, which one of you guys did this? And they would all look at me and go, not me, Dad. But the other two would look at my daughter and they would be staring at her. That's how funny kids are. They give each other away without saying anything. So I knew who it was. But every time I would ask her, like, it's okay, if you tell me, I promise I'm not going to punish you. Just, I need to know if you did it or not. And she would constantly deny and say no. And so at a certain point, I kept asking myself, okay, what's the learning lesson here? Mm-hmm. And what came to me was this little voice that said to me, Alex, there's some way that you're being or not being where your daughter doesn't trust that she's in good hands with you if she tells you the truth. Mm-hmm. And that's what I heard, not up here. Mm-hmm. I heard it in here. It was like an internal voice, right? It was that spirit voice asking me to be in the question about who I'm being or who am I not being, which then had me reflect and look at myself and look at all the times that she's lied to me in the past. And I asked myself, who was I being in those moments or who was I not being? And when I got real and I got honest, the answers came to me. And those answers was that I was being angry or I was being upset at her or I was being disappointed. And so I manifested those frustrations and I projected them onto her, which had her decide that she can't trust me to be honest anymore. Right. Now that was an epiphany that I had as a young man, as a young father, that I finally realized that if that's what I'm supposed to learn, which is to figure out how to be a different way with her to cause a different result, then that's what I was going to partake on. And so what I did was I started to show up different to her. And I started to be more vulnerable and be more authentic with her. And I started to let her know honestly that I too don't always tell the truth. And so I had to show up in a different way. I had to be a different father to her in that moment so that I can gain her trust back again. And I'm proud to say that because of who I was being in the next 2 to 3 months in that process, I was able to help her cause a shift in her honesty and her integrity. And now she's this powerful young woman that lives her life with integrity and honesty. And so those are those little pivotal moments that life is there asking you the question, what are you supposed to be learning about yourself in this moment? Yeah. And if you're emotionally honest and willing to look at yourself, even if it's a challenging and daunting look, because you're going to have to face some things about yourself, you can actually teach yourself to get to that next level.
Absolutely. And it's that conversation we have with ourselves that is most important, right? Like holding ourselves accountable and being honest with ourselves. You don't even have to communicate that immediately with your child. First, actually, I recommend is like to do that inner work on yourself. Journal, meditate, pray, get into your quiet zone where you go inside. Everybody has that quiet voice inside that's telling us the truth. And it's like, do you have the courage to listen? Do you have the courage to face yourself and say, oh, that's not who I really want to show up as? But like, can I own that? Because the moment you own it is the moment you can steer it in the direction you actually do want it.
Absolutely. So let's talk real quick. If we have parents that are listening and they're like, we need to give them examples. So what would some of those examples look like? So I'm visualizing, your son or daughter that doesn't want to come out and spend time with you, or every time you invite him or her to the mall or let's go on a ride, they're like, no, I'm okay. And they're hiding out in their room all the time. Like all those scenarios are there to teach you something if you're willing to be honest and look at yourself, right? And so sometimes that challenging pill that you have to swallow is, well, who am I being around her? Who have I been with him or her that they don't want to spend time with me? That's a tough pill to swallow. You really have to look at that, right?
You do, and it's not just like one moment; it's like accumulation.
That's right.
Right, and
they don't
like,
just all of a sudden, go from 4 years old wanting to jump on your lap and go everywhere with you to all of a sudden not wanting to go with you, to the store. It happens, like you said, cumulatively, that you've been not present and acknowledging.
That was exactly where I was going to go with this, is being present. Like, if you want, one of my examples is like, lately I have been up-leveling myself in every area of my life, and so I'm really, really busy, especially with work.
Right.
And I have 2 little ones. They're 2 and 5. And they're at the age where they're so sweet. They just want every bit of your attention.
That's
and
right.
I had to catch myself, like, Mary, like, these are your angels. Like, your work can wait. You need to be present with them, because it started to be like, oh my God, I have these to-do things. I have these projects I need to check off my list because I have deadlines and I have a huge, book of it. And these kids are just
But they don't care that you have 5 businesses.
No, but they shouldn't care.
I know.
Right.
They just want mommy's attention, so they're
Yes.
bringing all their toys. Mom, look what I got. They're hungry for that because they need to be seen. They need to be validated.
Yes.
They need to know that
Well,
they're
the lesson,
important to you.
So the lesson
Yeah.
for me was, like, I stopped myself in my tracks. I was like, oh my God, I am not present. I am seeing them as a little bit of a distraction or like annoying, like when I'm stressed out because I have too much on my plate.
Right.
And that's the moment where I caught myself. I'm like, girl, you are not walking your talk. Like, close your laptop, be present, because that's one of the steps that, that I teach, is like, you got to just be fully present.
Right.
And the moment I caught myself, it was like magic. It was heaven. I could hear the angels singing. Like, all the stress and all the drama instantly disappeared, because all I had to do was be present, because they're fully present. And what's so sweet and so cute is that, like, their way of like, I want to play, is them inviting me to stay present with them. And I love that so much.
Yeah, and it took that awareness for you to stop and look at that moment. Well, to be present, to see in that moment that your kids are yearning something from you.
Yes.
They're in that moment wanting something, whether it's the attention or to be heard or be validated.
Absolutely.
And if we're not checking in with ourselves and doing a self-reflection and asking ourselves intuitively, all right, what am I supposed to be doing here? What's the need? What's the lesson I'm supposed to be learning? And I think through that process, you had that awakening and then realized it, gave it to them. You probably had to stay up a little bit later when they were asleep to catch up.
Right.
But that's a small price we paid
Totally.
because we decided to have these kids.
Yep.
And I think quite often as parents, when our kids get past a certain age that we think they can fend for themselves, or that, we can now kind of, not be as present or be involved in their life and give them that space. Sometimes they need us actually more at those moments, that they're quietly in their room. And, especially as business owners, if you're an entrepreneur, your business actually never stops. You're literally 24 hours. Ideas are always coming. You're
Right.
getting up at 2 a.m. You're typing up a blog or whatever you're doing.
Right.
So we really have to be mindful and aware. Some people that don't have their own businesses, they just go to work, they can check off at 3 or 5 o'clock, clock out, and they can literally just be present and in their life. So it depends on what kind of work environment you have.
And I always think about my husband. He's also an entrepreneur, very successful, and he shout out to my husband.
There you
and,
go.
And woohoo, Adrian Tan, and
Team Tan.
That's right, Team Tan, and even the girls and I, the 4 of us. They're in the back seat of the car, and the youngest one will be like, "Family hands in," and that means like
Yeah,
like all the hands
that's
in.
right.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
10 on 3, 10 on 3, 1, 2, 3.
But what were we saying just now?
We were talking about how, in the moment we can actually get
yes,
distracted depending on, for a business owner or not.
Yes, and I was talking about my husband. He inspires me in a lot of ways because he's very successful in business as an entrepreneur, but he makes it look so easy. I'm always like, how do you make it look so easy? He goes to work, he comes home, and he's always so present. And the way he does it is that he's very scheduled. He, this is when he wakes up. This is when he goes to the gym, 4:30 in the morning. This is when I eat. This, everything down to the minute. And you want to know something? I think the most successful people have to do that. And so I started to realize and implement that, what? If my body is here in this home with my 2 children, I'm going to be mom. And I'm just going to, turn off the laptop and be present. And I think that serves the world on a grander scale way better than me trying to do something halfway. Right, halfway be a mom,
right.
halfway be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And then, so the other thing that I think about when I think about this topic, which is how to see everything as a learning moment. When we opened the show, I talked about, giving up the know-it-all syndrome. You really have to tell yourself and operate from a place of I know nothing. Because once you've decided you know something, then you're not learning anymore. And I feel like a lot of adults have already come to the conclusion that they're the experts at their own life.
Oh, so good.
And
So
when
true.
you're an expert at your own life, you're not learning and growing anymore. You're just regurgitating the same knowledge
Yeah.
that might be limited. And you don't realize that the world is constantly evolving. The world is always growing and discovering itself.
Yeah.
And so if you're stuck at, and I hate to say this, but some adults are mentally and emotionally stuck at a certain age. You can have 40, 50-year-olds that mentally and emotionally and spiritually
Yeah.
stuck at a 16-year-old kid.
Or 5 or 6
Yeah,
years old.
yeah, and they'll keep regurgitating the same stuff over and over again where they're needy of approval, and so you'll hear them gossiping all the time or trying to boast themselves to get approval from everybody. And so there's those dysfunctions that we have as human beings, and I'm very
Yes.
sympathetic for it
Right.
because we all have them.
Yes.
The trick is can we be aware of them? Can we be honest that we have them? And are we courageous enough to start addressing them such that we learn them and have a breakthrough so that we can evolve to a higher level, not just for me, but so that I can be a better parent to my son or daughter?
Absolutely. And my invitation to the listeners is, exactly, not just for you as a parent and not just for your child, but for all the generations after that. Because what's been handed down to us came from our parents and their parents and the lineage all the way up the line. But if we stop that right here, right now with our lives and our children, and what that means is giving them the gifts of self-awareness, the tools of responsibility and how to show up and how to use your thoughts and words in a way that's powerful so you can create the life that you actually want and enjoy it so that you can give back more to the world. If you're not an empowered person, you're not going to be able to live that life that you dream about and give back to the world. So we got to start here right now with ourselves, with our kids, and say, we're going to stop the insanity right here, right now. And then all the generations after that get to benefit from it.
Absolutely. So real quick, tell me a little bit, brief description of when you realized that you were in your own way of getting to your next level. Like where was your epiphany? When did you realize that you have to start working on you
Oh my
to be
gosh.
able to live an extraordinary life?
You know what? In 2006, had an emotional breakdown. I think a nervous breakdown. I just didn't realize it. I literally cried for a whole entire year. I am not joking.
Wow.
And yes, I moved from New York City to San Diego, and it was like the masculine energy being wound up and not even realizing it, and coming into divine feminine energies like Hawaii. It just wraps you. It loves you. You're safe. You can breathe. You can exhale. And wow, all of the traumas and dramas that I've suppressed for that many decades just blew up. I was in my late 20s. Blew up like a soda bottle, shaken and in the sun. It just blew up, and it was dirty and ugly and sticky, and I did not know what was wrong. And for a type A person who likes to problem solve, not knowing what was wrong was horrifying because I couldn't fix it. And that put me on the path of looking for the solution in as many places as possible until I found it. It was I had to taste test everything. And because of that, that's the gift. Now I have all these amazing tools in my toolbox that I get to share with everybody
So
else.
where did you start off? Because everyone has a starting point. For me, it was transformational training. For other people, it's yoga. Or what was your starting point that drew you?
Interesting. If I had to trace it all the way back, I think it probably started with meditation.
Oh, okay.
And that is still the foundational piece that I teach people that
So
to
you
hear that voice.
you got into the silence.
I got into the silence.
And started going inward.
Yes, and then I started feeding my body clean foods. I was becoming more and more conscious, and then I went into to acupuncture school. I was learning about acupuncture, Chinese medicine, and herbs, and then that is when I really
So you got into energy.
yes, and that's when it really blew wide open.
That's awesome. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
That's great. And so it's funny because we all come to we come to our journey when we're ready, right? And for you, you described this moment where you just kept taking on more until you couldn't take it no more, and then you had this explosion. Sometimes I like to call it hitting rock bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Like some of us, we have to hit rock bottom to have an awakening.
Totally.
You'll hear this a lot of times with people that are struggling with addiction. Some people need to hit rock bottom with addiction to finally realize, man, I need help. So, you know, the question is that you don't always have to hit rock bottom. You can just wake up one day and realize that I want to be more effective in my life. I want more. I'm hungry for more. Like just living in the question of, man, why was I born? What's my purpose?
Yes.
There's got to be more out there. And if you come to the conclusion there has to be more, you will start to discover that there is more. And you are the person that can go out and have it. And then it challenges now your worthiness. Do I deserve more? And then now you start this whole journey of trying to filter out all the old belief systems and the fears and the doubts and insecurities. But what a beautiful journey it is.
Such a beautiful journey. We all have these stories, and everyone's journey is beautiful. It just becomes more and more clear how beautiful it is the more you shed those layers of false beliefs.
I'll tell you what, when we come back from the break, we're going to have you talk a little bit more about what you do and your gift, and because you do some pretty incredible things that I don't think people know about. So let's get that out there. Sounds good?
Thanks, Alex.
All right, stay tuned for more of the Inspirational Parent radio show right here in your hometown station, KHTS.
Come join me, Arif Halby, for Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Every Tuesday at noon, we uncover ways to help you manage your money, get out of debt, and prepare for your retirement. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Are you not sure if you can retire yet? Listen to us and learn about tips for savings, retirement strategies, and so much more. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour on your hometown station, KHTS.
If you'd like to take your business up a notch, take a look at Elite Magazine.
Linda and Mo Hafizi, owners of our Valley's two leading magazines, the Magazine of Santa Clarita and Elite.
I'm so proud of Elite. It allows your advertisement to stand out. We distribute Elite to 50,000 homes and businesses. You'll find us in 1,900 local hotel rooms.
Discover how Elite Magazine can help your business. Call 294-4444.
Superior quality is second nature to us. Just ask our advertisers.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association has a new gallery in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Main and Railroad, right across from the Canyon Theater Guild. The gallery features our members' paintings, sculptures, and one-of-a-kind handcrafted gift items. Whether you're an art lover, buyer, or an artist wishing to join, visit our website at santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming events and exhibits, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
You already know Salt Creek Grill has the best food in our valley. Well, now you can have Salt Creek's gourmet meals catered to your event.
I'm Greg Amsler, owner of Salt Creek Grill. I'd like to introduce you to a new level of catering, featuring our catering director, Tamara Levine.
Salt Creek Grill creates memorable experiences, which leaves our clients and guests with a sense of awe and excitement. From menu development to picturesque presentation, you'll enjoy culinary excellence and creative catering.
Salt Creek Grill, a new level of catering.
The Harlem Globetrotters will bring their amazing feats of basketball world tour to the greater Los Angeles area from February 17th through February 25th. Witness amazing Globetrotter moments that become unforgettable Globetrotter memories. Prepare to be amazed by the ball-handling wizardry and experience the antics that will have kids of all ages laughing the entire time. Don't miss the world-famous Harlem Globetrotters, February 17th through February 25th. Game schedule and tickets at harlemglobetrotters.com.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top-quality musicals and plays. Located on Main Street in Old Town Newhall, CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go online to canyontheater.org.
Little Eye Leaders is the newest preschool in the Santa Clarita Valley. At Little Eye Leaders, our outstanding teachers lead with intellect, perspective, and heart. That means our programs provide a warm, nurturing atmosphere to meet the unique needs of each child. We believe that play is a powerful form of learning for young children. That's why our kids have every opportunity to learn through the magic and excitement of play. Parents, schedule a tour today by calling 303-0400 or online at littleeyeleaders.org.
And welcome back to the Inspirational Parent Radio Show. I'm your host, Alex Urbina. Today we're talking about how to see everything as a learning moment. We have Mary Tan joining me in the studio. She is an author, a speaker, coach, and does some other incredible things for our community as well as our world. Before I get into that, I want to tell people how we actually met, which I think is pretty incredible. And, you know, it's like the universe has you attracted to certain people because I think we're all on this mission to find our tribe. Like who are the people that we're supposed to partner up with to be able to get our message out there, because I believe our visions are similar, and so we kind of vibrate at a certain level. And you were over at the Starbucks, and I was coaching a client, and you just happened to, I don't know, take a break or stretch. You were doing some kind of yoga stuff near us, and then you kind of you gave yourself permission to interrupt us, which was cool.
Yeah.
And I saw your light, and I was like, you know, I remember thinking to myself, like, you know, how courageous of you to kind of introduce yourself. But I'm also open to the universe, because the universe is always sending us messages. And then coming from the place of how do you see everything as a learning moment, I was open to you. And so when you came in and introduced yourself, we just kind of hit it off, and here we are, you know, sharing our visions together. And now, you know, you're able to be here and contributing yourself. So what did you take away from that moment?
Well, I just first want to say I'm so grateful. Thank you for having me today, Alex.
Absolutely.
Because I do feel ditto on everything that you said. And what my takeaway was that day was how wonderful to be surrendered to the universe, to let it truly guide everything that I think and do and say and show up as. Because that's all I did, was I just listened to my guidance and I showed up. I work there every day on my laptop, and I just heard a little voice say, hey, go walk around the block and come back in the other way. And I'm like, okay, I'm here, what now? And I'm stretching, and all of a sudden I'm overhearing your conversation because I'm like right there. And I'm like, my hair is down because I don't want you to see my face, like I'm like, I don't know. So I'm like, I'm eavesdropping at this point. I'm like, okay, source. I'm talking to myself in my head. Okay, why did you bring me here? So I was in the question. Why did you? Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I'm always in the question as well. I'm like, why did you bring me here? What am I? Okay, I hear the conversation. Yes, I hear them talking about emotional intelligence and the youth, and that is important. Yes, I do that too. Okay. And then finally, you guys start talking about love. Love is important, love and this. And I'm like, you know what? That's my gateway in. I'm like, hi, guys.
Yeah, being in the question and that self-reflection, but also it talks, you know, it's a testimony, I think, to you going into the silence and going within and the meditation. And so that practice had you kind of tune in to your surrounding, and it was a certain message that was just kind of, you know, drawing you in, and it was a great opening. I'm so grateful that you did introduce yourself, because I got the opportunity to meet you and help support you, and we can support each other in our messages. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about what you do, because I know you were telling me also about this school that you've created. Tell us about that.
Okay, so you know, when my 5-year-old graduated from a really progressive preschool, and I didn't know where to put her next, and so after a long meditation, I came out and I got the message from the universe: you need to be the one to open this school. I'm like, it's not in my life plans. I'm like 2 months away from finishing my book. Please don't ask me to do something else right now. Like, I want to finish my goal.
Right.
And the
no more distractions, please.
Yeah, right. Like, let me put on my blinders. And the source was like, no. Like, I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? And it just kept coming back, yes. And so I just did it. And I came out of meditation, and I just like poured out everything that I saw the message as, and bam, things just happen really fast when you listen to source and follow directions. That's how I live my life.
What's the name of the school?
It's called Light Warrior School.
And can other people bring their children to your school, or tell us about the school?
Yeah,
real quick.
right now it's kindergarten, so it's like 5 and 6 years old.
Okay.
Because it's just going to be around my daughter. Right. And 5 and 6 years, we do have weekend workshops that are open to the public, because I don't want to exclude anyone. It's open to the public, like the school itself, if you're fitting that age group. But if you don't, we have amazing everything about me is all about empowering the youth, empowering people, empowering women. So I have stuff just for moms. I have stuff for moms and kids. So you can soon. I'll have it on my website at mary-tan.com, and I'll have an events page, and you can see all the things I have offered.
I love it because I'm a big supporter of homeschool, and because as an option, right, it's just an option.
Yeah.
But when you get an option to be able to homeschool your child and you have the time or you've made the commitment, who better to teach your kids?
Yeah.
If you're on your own journey of consciousness and awareness and you're growing and developing yourself, what a great way to open that up to have other teachers come and teach your son and daughter the emotional intelligence that they're going to need in today's world to be able to be a powerful, responsible leader and contributor into the world.
Yes.
I mean, I'm all for teaching math and English, and we need to know all that stuff, but let's shift
the soft skills.
Let's shift the percentage more on the emotional intelligence, you know, and then we can sprinkle all the other stuff that they can learn. They're going to absorb that anyways.
Absolutely.
Instead of filling their brain with information that, you know, or we're avoiding all the stuff that we're going to need to learn interpersonally.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I mean, even Harvard has done studies to say that, you know, the soft skills are really what's going to make someone a powerful leader. The emotional intelligence, knowing your own emotions, being able to identify through self-awareness. I mean, it's all that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And
do you have any workshops coming up? Anything you want to plug or let people know how to plug into what you're up to?
Yeah, they can send me an email is the best thing. It's mary@mary-tan.com. And shoot me an email and say, oh, by the way, I'd like to gift your listeners a free copy of my book. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah? All right. So
what's the name of the book?
It's called, oh my gosh, The Empowered Child, and it's all about raising conscious, confident, connected children.
So if they send you an email talking about, I heard you on The Inspirational Parent, I get a free copy of the book.
That's right.
Oh, that's a great, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Shoot me an email, let me know I want a free copy of your book,
Awesome.
and ask for my calendar of events, because I got a lot of things going on.
Hey, thank you, Mary, so
Thank
much for being here. It's such an
you.
honor.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you, and I wish you all the best of luck. And I'm here. I'm on your team. I'm on Team 10. So I'm here to support you on that.
I'm on your team.
Thank you for listening every Friday, the Inspirational Parent Radio Show. I'm your host, Alex Urbina. Stay tuned for your next broadcast and your next show right here on the Inspirational Parent, KHTS.